Welcome to the DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay. Getting a jump start on tomorrow's three-game slate. We figured, 3 games, 6 teams, it would be easy enough to just kind of knock out. We could do this in our sleep.
Instead of the Daily Trot, it's more like the Daily Canter. That's a horse riding reference for those of you playing at home. I am not a 4-H member. I am a former brother of a 4-H member. So that's about as far as my knowledge goes, but it sounds smart if I stop talking now. All right, let's get into the slate.
The only canter I know is Enos. For the Thunder. Enos Cantor.
Oh, yes. Yes. Walk, trot. All right, let's go.
Let's jump into this one. Mets and Marlins. First one here. Marcell Ozuna. All right, sorry. Marlins and Mets. Jacob deGrom versus Jose Urena. This one, Jacob deGrom, for me, even though he hasn't pitched well in his last 2 starts, is kind of the cash game option of the night. Really takes the Marlins out of play on the 6-game slate.
Yeah,
3 games. I am off, man.
Six teams. We know where you're going. You almost, that was like you're the damsel in distress, and you were like falling off the horse, but I like grabbed you by one leg and threw you back on, and we're going. All right.
Losing it.
Yeah, we're not touching Marlins. Sort of like the last few days, except even more so today. There's just no one here. Maybe you could do Yelich as sort of a contrarian move at 43. I don't mind that. Other than that, complete fade for me. And I think that's pretty simplistic. Depending on how you want to play the slate, some take it off. Some just play tournaments. If you're just playing tournaments, I'd still suggest staying away.
Yeah, I definitely would too. I'm definitely more intrigued with the Mets side, and because it's a 3-game slate, I feel like we're not forced to dive into the Mets because I feel like they'd still be a contrarian option even on a larger slate. But Jose Urena, 366 WOBA to lefties since 2015, 1.40 homers per 9. That puts a lot of these guys in play, and guys like Reyes and then Cabrera have actually been hitting the ball pretty well of late. So I like them kind of as middle tier options in the infield.
Yep, I agree. In terms of this lineup as a whole, I like Granderson. We'll see where Jay Bruce is in the lineup, but I like him as well. I think you can fire away with a full stack here, especially on a 3-game slate.
Yeah, I think you can too, and even the Jay Bruce and Granderson plays I'm certainly fine with. Even Cespedes. If Conforto's in the lineup, I'll certainly be giving him a look for his value. Mainly, I'll even punt down to a Travis d'Arnaud to a 3,100. I just feel like the Mets are a viable offense on this slate because Urena is one of the easier pitchers to target against.
And it's really a 2-horse race in terms of, top pitchers. So I guess if you had to pick one between deGrom and Quintana, you're probably going like deGrom, right?
Price considered, yeah. But I think for me, I'd be firing them both away.
So if you, but say you do that, if you get deGrom and maybe fade Quintana, I think you can probably fit this next team we're going to be looking at in here.
Yeah, you probably definitely can. And that's why it's kind of more of a GPP move in terms of just playing the slate in general.
Yeah, exactly.
Giants and Cubs, Mike Montgomery versus Jeff Samardzija. Montgomery, obviously a guy who's making some spot starts for the Cubbies, lefty there. He does put a couple of bats in play for me. Eduardo Nunez, Buster Posey, Hunter Pence are certainly a couple of right-handers I don't mind against lefties, but you do got to pay up for Posey there and even Nunez.
Yikes. Yeah, I'm not loving that. It's certainly an option on a 3-gamer. But as I was referring to last time, I was saying if you fade Quintana, you can totally fit this Cubs stack in here, which is something I'm certainly going to be looking at. As far as Posey goes, oh boy. So sometimes when guys are overpriced, I think it's kind of a nice way to get contrarian, like a contrarian move out of him at low ownership. I don't know how low he's going to be. It's probably still going to be 25%,
And the thing with Posey is, Posey's not a guy. He's not a guy to pay off a 5K price tag.
No,
he's just not that type of bat. I like him as a play. I like the matchup, but it is tough to kind of pay up a catcher and not because you're missing out on other bats if you do that.
Right, and there's just so many min punt catchers. It's going to be really tough for Posey to pay off like against all those guys. So I don't know. I'm not necessarily in on it.
No, I'm not either. And moving over to the Cubs side, I mean, Jeff Samardzija has been pretty weak against lefties, 348 WOBA allowed since last year, 1.55 homers per nine. I think Anthony Rizzo is going to be my priority if I'm paying up here today.
Certainly, especially at first base. I'd say it's pretty easily him. I mean, even the next game we'll look at some first basemen there, but they're not in optimal matchups. I mean, I think you just kind of have to plug Rizzo in every format.
Yeah, I mean, he's the first base option that really stands out. I mean, there really isn't another guy. I mean, you could look at, guys like Jose Abreu, Justin Morneau, who we'll get to, but Rizzo is that kind of clear-cut number one.
Right, and really the only way you get lucky by fading him is if, he just fouls it off and hits a screaming, line drive to the outfielder or something like that. That's the only way, really.
Yeah. And as far as the other guys go, I mean, Fowler, Zobrist, Jason Hayward, reasonable prices for lefties to get exposure to against Samardzija. I definitely don't mind those guys.
Yep, certainly. And like you mentioned, they're reasonable prices, so it's not even crushing you. The Chris Bryant price is definitely crushing you, but overall, whatever.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Miguel Montero's behind the plate catching lefty against Samardzija there for under 3K. I'll fire him in behind the dish. So
certainly.
White Sox and Twins next year. Urban Santana versus Jose Quintana. I mean, Santana is a reasonable pivot off of really Quintana and DeGrom, who are the two top guys. But out of the pitchers, out of those three who are certainly the ones, Santana's the one who you can target against the most in comparison to DeGrom and Quintana.
So I look at those first two games as kind of like, warm-ups. This is where the stuff's going to happen. This is where the tournaments are going to be decided for me. I like Quintana in this matchup, but I mean, I think you have to worry a little bit about Brian Dozier. I think you have to worry about a little bit about Trevor Plouffe and Miguel. I kind of like the Twins as a contrarian move, even though I do like Quintana. I think if there is a contrarian stack you can make, it's certainly the Twins.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, obviously Quintana has pitched well against the Twins, but I mean, fifth time they're going to see him this year. As you mentioned, I mean, Brian Dozier, Trevor Plouffe, Miguel Sano, certainly reasonable prices, really outside of Dozier. But if you're pairing them all together, it's not that bad. And I do think, because I mean, then you can kind of go Santana and DeGrom and be a little bit contrarian and use off some Twins there.
Yep, agreed. So I think there is some interest with the Twins for me. We say tournaments, just tournaments, haha. But it's just a contrarian move, so you don't want a ton of exposure, but certainly worth investigating. And like you mentioned, doing that Santana and DeGrom move with them.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, that could certainly possibly work. I mean, you're going to have to kind of differentiate yourself, and that would be a move to make.
Yeah.
As far as the White Sox go, I mean, as well as Santana has pitched in the second half, he kind of draws a line where, you look at DeGrom, you look at Quintana, kind of tough to pick on those guys. Samardzija has his weakness. Santana is a guy who still does allow some fancy production, but I don't think the White Sox are going to blow up.
No, I think you look at an Adam Eaton, you look at, maybe a Tim Anderson, a Justin Morneau for value. I think this is kind of where you dive in for value a little bit with the under 3K guys, which most of this lineup is. So that's kind of what I'm looking at there. I wouldn't go full stack, but Adam Eaton, pretty interesting at 36.
Eaton's certainly the one I'm most attracted to in terms of this lineup, just for the price at 3,600. And even Jose Abreu, I think, is a reasonable come off from Rizzo if you wanted to still get some power. And even more, no, I mean, I don't mind that in GPPs. I think this game alone, as far as the hitting goes, I mean, Eaton is cash game eligible for me, but everyone else I feel like is just kind of more GPPs if you're going that route.
Agreed.
So, well, that's it.
End it there. Cut it.
That's it. 3 games. I mean, sloppy start, but we finished hard with the last 2.
I thought we did. Yeah, it was kind of like a bowling ball. We were spinning towards the gutter, but we had that extra spin on it at the end, curve right into the
or
front
you
pocket.
You threw up the bumpers when I was throwing out Marcelo Ozuna as the Marlins mascot, and that was what happened.
So there's a conspiracy theory that might be what happened, but we're not gonna,
we're not gonna
release that information.
No, we're not to the public.
No.
So that's gonna wrap things up with the DraftKings Daily Trot. Be sure to check out DaveFantasyCafe.com for all our great tools and content.